Okay, fifth grade. We are going to work on a project called the food chain, and it is for Miss Hayes' class. So we're going to do the art part with me. You'll probably get a little time in her class, or for you remote guys, you'll get time scheduled to work on your food chain project. All right. So I'm going to go over a little bit about what we're going to do. We're going to start with some sketches. Some of you have already done those. That's great. I'm just going to give you a couple tips from there. I'm going to walk you through how to make the cuts on your paper, because we're going to have some openings on the piece of paper. I'm going to go through that, and then I'm going to show you how to pencil stuff in, and then how to finish them up. It is going to take a couple of class times for us to do that. So you guys at home, we're going to be working on this for a couple weeks. So keep that in mind. You don't want to finish in one day. If you do that, you probably haven't put the time into it. We're probably not going to know what they are. So let's get started, and so you can see what's ahead. All right. So if you're working on a sketch, let me go to a new page in the sketchbook here. All right. What we want to do for our sketch, just to make sure that our ideas are going to work out. All I did, since there's 4 different transitions in the food chain here that we're making, I just divided my paper in half, and then I divided it in half again, and that gave me 4 boxes to do my drawings in. And you want them, those boxes will end up looking portrait style because they're small. They'll be going up and down like that. That'll be a good area. Now, one of those boxes is going to be a pretty small thing that you're going to be drawing, but the rest of them you're going to have to get some idea of how to put them in. So I've kind of started that a little bit here. Right. So I divided it, like I said, in half and in half again, and then I've got a couple of portrait style pages here, or sections here. So you'll notice the first thing mine are going to be eating are going to be the grass that I have here. And so I kind of just penciled that in. It's just a rough sketch, just try to get a good idea of what's going on. You'll notice for these that I've made some oval shapes. Now the oval shape is a little bit more complex to what we're doing. I'm going to show you a square shape opening and an oval shape. I would stick with the oval for right now, since that's a good mouth opening, and it's probably the direction a lot of you are going to go anyway. So the opening is the mouth of whatever is eating whatever. So my next one here, this one's going to be a rabbit eating the grass. All right. Now, I got some pretty good ideas of what a rabbit looks like, but I recommend Google imaging whatever is that you're going to be drawing. So for instance, I looked up rabbit head, and I even went as far as rabbit head open mouth, and I got a fairly interesting picture, all right, that I am going to look off of. So with your Chromebooks or your computers at home, this will help. Now he's tilted to the side, but this gives me some good ideas of what to look for, all right? So here you can see just a straight on view. So I've got a couple different things I can look off of here. And I'm actually going to start with the straight on view. And so I could probably keep both of them so that I can look at both, okay? So I'm going to start putting that information in. Again, this drawing is just kind of a rough idea, but we're going to have the nose in here and where it's rounded. What makes it interesting with the mouth open is that you get a longer view in here. But with this one, he's actually got some teeth, so I'm going to pencil those in, and I will show you how to incorporate those into your final in your sketchbook. All right, so he's got a couple teeth, top and the bottom, and you know, we want to get the little area where the whiskers are going to come out. I'm going to draw some of those in, and then eyes are more on the side. I'm going to keep them close because this is the mouth open here. Okay, so it kind of stretches out. Got a little bit of a chin in this area. And so really just kind of a light pencil drawing of what is happening. I can have it like that. Now I'm not going to be able to get all my information in here, but I am going to try my best. His eyes are on the side. And then he's got some ears that are going to go up. And they end up going off the page, which is okay. I'll show you how we're going to adjust that in a little bit. All right. And so really we're just worried about the face. I'm not worried about getting his body in any of this. There's my rough drawing. And that's pretty much what I have. And if I still have my picture with me, I can see which way the fur is going. So I'm going to keep that close by for when I start getting in my details. All right. I'm just going to shade in a little bit of the nose and the eyes. They tend to look pretty intense when their mouths are open. All right. I don't really want to draw anything inside of here except for what I can see along the edge. So he's got a tongue in here. I could put that in if I wanted to. That's not a bad thing. I can decide that in a little bit. All right. So I've kind of worked with the face here. I got my rough sketch in, and I'm going to go on from there because my next one is going to be a cheetah. All right. Same thing. Mouth is wide open. I can start working with the nose area. That's usually where I start because that's the closest. I start looking at some of, he's got a black rim around the edge of the mouth. He has teeth as well, so I'm definitely going to show those sharp teeth, maybe a few of the others in there. Got a couple here as well. I'm looking at, got some black lines that kind of go up into his eyes, and then the head is pretty narrow. Again, their faces are longer because their mouth is open, so we have to keep that in mind when we are working. And I'm not really darkening too many things up just yet. I just want to get some basic ideas. He's got some spots. Those ears kind of go back off in here. Again, this is pretty long. Something like so. I'm not even putting in a lot of the spots. There's not a lot of spots on the face. I will get some of those in. He's got some whiskers as well. Darken up the eyes a little bit. A lot of this is going to be fur, so it's not going to be just this straight line going down. But it is going to be kind of longer in that area. And as long as I've got my picture to look off of, he's got some spots here. He's got some spots in here. I'll get a little bit more detail-oriented onto my final. And then my last one is my lion. All right. So again, we want that mouth open. The nose. And these spaces aren't the biggest. If you want to move the oval down a little bit because we're not really doing too much down below it, that's probably not a bad idea. Okay. But I'm going to just start getting in some of those details. So he's got the eyes in here. He's got those wrinkles. Some of that mane is going to flow off of the top of this. I think I'm going to have to make the nose a little bit wider. He's definitely got some teeth. Get some of those in there. Got like a little beard. And this is kind of long with it being open. Maybe I'll get a tongue in there. If you wanted to add some of that stuff in, you could show some of that, but we don't need to go too far because the next animal is going to be fitting inside of there. And these ovals are all the same size just because we're doing this practice drawing, but they are going to be different sizes when we start to work with our final. So really I'm just kind of getting an idea of where the mane is going to go, where his little beard is at, where some of the whiskers are going to go. And like so. All right? So once you've got a pretty good idea, then you got to get that approved by myself or Miss Hayes. And then we are going to go on to the next step. Okay, we've got our practice drawings done, and I am going to select some new pages to start putting this into my sketchbook. So you might have done your practice drawings on a different piece of paper. That's totally fine. In fact, that's probably better. And then these are the next 3 open spaces in my sketchbook. So I want to keep these 3 papers together, right? I know there's 4 images in our food chain, but we only need 3 to do this next part here. So I've got these 3, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold them in half. So I'm going up towards the spine here, and I am keeping them on, make sure they're straight along the top and the bottom, and they go up as close to the spine as they can, and then I am going to fold them like so. All right, so I've got them folded. There's my 3 papers all folded together. 1, 2, 3. All right, and I'm going to start to make my openings for the mouth. All right, so I'm going to turn this landscape style. You're going to need a ruler and a pencil, and eventually you'll need some scissors. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the center of my page. So I'm just going right even with my fold line here, and I've got my 0. And it looks like we are 11 inches, so 5.5 would be my center. So these marks aren't going to show up when we're all done. All right. So my first thing I want to do is I'm going to move my ruler down. I'm going to put my 1-inch mark right on where I made my center mark, because I want to go 1 inch out in both directions. So I'm going to go to the 0, because that's 1 inch from there, and then from the 1 to the 2, that is 1 inch. All right. So I've got 3 marks here. There's my center, and then 1 inch out from the center. And then I'm going to line up my 1 again with my left line, and I'm going to go up 1 inch, so all the way to 0. And then I'm going to do that on the far outside one. I don't have to do it to my center one. So I'm just making those 2 lines, going out 1 inch, and then I'm going to connect them. All right. Now I've got a nice little area to work in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a cut, but we're going to make it rounded. So I kind of made these lines so I knew where to stay within. But I'm going to start cutting up from the edge here, and then I'm going to slowly bring it towards the center, and then I'm going to cut from this side, and I'm going to slowly bring it up towards the center. So you can draw lines like I did, or you can just freehand cut. Either way is fine, but I'm going to start working on my cut here. So I'm cutting all 3 papers together, so keep them all together. All right, and I've made my cut, and I'm working my way. It's a little awkward because they're being held on to the sketchbook. I'm going to make it to about the halfway point, and then I'm going to come out, and I'm going to come back over to this side here. And smaller scissors might be a little bit better, but you really got to do with what you can, what you got. So, all right, so let's see where I'm being held on here. Just a little space. I'm going to give it a little cut. All right, so I've got my nice rounded part for my opening. Kind of looks like a little taco here. All right, I don't want to lose this. I need this for later, so I'm going to keep this off to the side. And I'm now going to make my second cut. So this is the opening for my rabbit's mouth. And I'm going to fold that back. And then I'm going to start again. I'm going to go up to my fold. So now I only have 2 pieces of paper because my third one's being folded down. And I'm going to go where the opening starts. And I want to go away 1.5 inches. So I'm looking at my ruler here, and there's the 1, and there's the big line in between the 1 and the 2. So there's my 1.5 inches, and I'm going to mark on the 0, and then I'm going to come over to the other side and do the same thing. This side, though, is going to have the 0 here. So there's my 1, and there is my midway between the 1 and the 2. There's my 1.5 inches there. So I'm going to measure up 1.5 inches. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. So I found out where my half is, measure up 1.5 inches, and then I'm going to connect those 2. Again, you can draw in lines if you want, or you can freehand it. I'm just going to freehand. You just want to go up just a little bit, and then start rounding it to the top, like so. Maybe I'll go a little further since it's a little easier. And then I'm going to take this side, and I'm going to go up a little bit. top. And don't worry about those lines. You don't have to erase those because they're not going to show up when we are all done. I got a little straggler right there. There we go. All right. So I went out 1.5 inches and up 1.5 inches, and then I went with a rounded cut. I'm going to fold this piece back. There's my next opening. All right. And then I'm going to make my last measurement and my last cut. This is still going to be 1.5 inches. So I've got my 1, and there's the halfway between the 1 and the 2, and I'm on this fold of my last paper. So this is the last one I got to do. So there's my 1.5 inches. I'm going to go to 0. I'm going to put my 0 down over here. Go 1.5 inches. There's 1. There's the halfway mark. This time, though, I'm going to go up 2 inches. So I brought my 2 right where my mark is at. I'm going to go to 0. And then there's my 2. And I'm going to go up to 0. Same thing. Connect them. And then cut them at a little bit of a curve, taking the corners off. Like I said, you can draw the lines in if that's easier, or you can freehand it. That is totally up to you. I'm holding my papers together. Just watch out for your finger with the scissors, all right? But I want to hold them together so they don't move around too much. And I kind of went a little past the halfway mark. That makes it a little easier to deal with. Just be careful with what you're working with here. Just trying to get my cut right on the line there. Again, any pencil lines, then you can don't have to worry about them because they're not going to be seen here. All right. It's a little rough there, but I'm okay with that. I still have all my scraps, so you want to make sure you keep those scraps because we're going to use those in a moment here. All right. So I've got my cut, my openings. All right. This is going to be my lion on this top one, and then my cheetah on this one, and this one's going to be my rabbit. And not on this page, but I'm going to glue to the back of this page some grass. All right. And I'm going to use my scraps to help make that grass. All right. So a lot of this is me drawing it out, but as I go, when you're drawing, you're just trying to get a rough idea. We're really going to spend some more time working with colored pencils. So for this, just going to push that off to the side. I'm just going to lightly kind of work out where I want my grass to go. It can bend one way or the other. You know, maybe have some in the background. All right, and then I'm going to take some color, and you really want to make sure you're using a couple different colors. So I've got some greens here, I got some yellows, and I'm going to try to find myself a nice maybe yellow green. All right, and then a nice scrap piece of paper to work with here. So that way I don't get all over the desk. So what I'm going to do is start going in with my lighter green. And I'm not pushing very hard, but I'm trying to keep them all pretty much going in the same direction. They're growing up. I've got this one upside down. They're growing up from the ground, all right? And so I'm just kind of lightly going in with the yellow green. And I'm going to hit it with a little bit of yellow just to kind of lighten some of that up. And my pencil lines are kind of dark, so I'm hoping when I put in a little bit darker green in there, it will get rid of some of those lines for me. But we definitely want to try to have a couple different tones in what we're working with. You don't want to just plaster down some green and be done with it. We want to mix some of those colors. So I got a blue green in here, but I don't think I'm going to use that one. I think I'm going to stick with these three here. I've got my lighter green, my yellow, and my dark green. What's nice is some of these colors are helping each other blend together, making a nice little green field. I did this upside down so that I could go off of the page here as I worked, and I didn't have to worry about getting into this other area. So I'm kind of lightly blending in with my medium green, my little yellow green. Probably go in with the dark just a little bit more, just to give it a little bit more tone here and there. Like so. All right. Now what I want to do is I'm going to cut away some of this white because I don't want that to be there. So I'm just going to kind of go in and cut away that background because I really just want it to be the grassy area. So I got one that's bent here. And you want to cut on the color a little bit so that it doesn't, so white doesn't show up. If it does, you can easily just go over it with the colored pencils. But I'm trying to get a little bit of the colored pencil in so I don't have to touch up too much from there. Oh, I got a little bit there. So, almost done. By going in at different angles, that helps me get those little pointy parts of the grass. Makes it a little easier to deal with. All right. And the smaller area is probably the best way to start, because then you feel like you got something done. All right. And like I said, if there's a little yellow in there, I'm going to go kind of away. So I'm only going one way. I don't want to go all back and forth because that will end up denting some of my objects. And you can see that I am on the paper here. Oops, see, I went back. I did it again. It's reflex. Try to go one direction. All right, so now I got my grass. So, move some of this to the side here. So my first opening, I'm going to put my grass, and I'm just going to put a little bit of stick glue, I think, right in there. And then I'm going to put that, and that's going to be in the inside of my rabbit. All right. Now, as I start to work with these other ones, I'm not going to glue that down just right now. I'm going to keep rolling here. I'm going to put these colored pencils back, and my rabbit, I want to see the opening. So I know what area now I'm going to be working in here, and I want to make sure that my rabbit, parts of my rabbit fit in there, but not all of him is going to fit in. All right, and I'm going to go back to my reference page here. Now, we still should be able to see parts of him. So his nose is going to be in here, and you're going to see his eyes in here. All right, so I want to make sure that that is still visible to what's going on. And again, pencil first. All right, get that rough idea. All right, I'm going kind of dark. And if you don't want to put things down right away, just don't lose this. Just kind of set that off to the side. I'm going to go in where some of the shadows are going to be. I'm not worried about fur for right now because I'm going to do that with my colored pencil. I just want to kind of get an idea. Oh, but I want to get his teeth in here, okay? And so, make these a little bit bigger here. And so, his teeth, I'm going to make out of this paper, my scrap paper. So I put one underneath so that I can kind of get an idea of where they're going to go. All right. And I can do the same thing with the bottom. I want to overlap it a little bit because I want an area where I can put a little glue. All right. So I want to make sure I get those teeth in. And then I can cut those out and I'm going to glue them underneath. Again, I'm going to put those off to the side and kind of save those for right now. And I know that the opening is going to come along in here. And then he's got his little chin. That's going to be kind of furry. Now, there's some things that you can't see too much. I'm going to get the start of those ears going on in here. But once I get a pretty good idea of where he's going to be, then I want to come out here and I actually want to make sure that you see the whole animal. All right? Miss Hayes is going to want to look at, and it's just the head, wants to look at what you've got. Again, make these lines light because we're going to cover them up with some colored pencil. All right? And if you want to go and draw them all in first and then color them, that's fine as well. So I'm kind of just working on the head here. Again, it's going to be stretched out because his mouth is really wide. All right. But that's all. It kind of looks like a Pokemon character or somebody from Star Wars here. All right. So I'll go in with my colors after this. And just to show you, you're going to see a little bit of that bunny in there, just so that we can see some of those characteristics. Like I said, I don't have the whiskers yet. I'm going to put those in with the colored pencil. But my next one is going to be that cheetah, all right? And again, I only have a small opening here, but I want to make sure that we see a good part of that cheetah, all right? And I know it's going to be black around the edges here. So when you're doing this, you got to be careful not to draw on your other animals, all right? And then I know I'm going to do teeth. So again, I want to find another scrap piece of paper. So I'm going to put that underneath. And again, I want to overlap it so that there's a little bit. It's got a few. All right. And then I'm going to do that on the bottom. With these smaller pieces, you just got to be careful that you don't lose any of those. I think I can just get a couple small ones in here. All right, so I've got enough space underneath now. I'm going to put those off to the side. And then you just want to make sure you don't put the wrong teeth on the wrong animal, all right? So with his mouth open, his eyes get real narrow, so I'm just going to kind of pencil those in, all right? And we can go a little bit less. I want to be able to see those eyes. I don't want them to be off the page. It's going to be close. He's got some wrinkles in here, and I want to make sure I get those in. Maybe some stripes here and there. And then I know that from there, I'm going to finish up what he looks like. So I'll have like the top of his head in here. Get those ears going in there. And then I can start to get just some ideas. Again, it's going to be narrow. Remember, this is going to be long. Get some spots in here. Got a little bit of a chin. And I don't want to make these too dark because I'm going to go in with my colors, my oranges and my whites, and get my whiskers in there later. All right, I'm just kind of getting some rough ideas. And then my last one. All right. This one's not so bad because we don't have to worry about gauging where the other things are. We're just not going to see everything on this, all right? So, you know, his ears and stuff are going to end up coming up off the page. And so we've got his nose. Again, I've got some more teeth. I'll put one of these underneath to get the teeth. All right. Yeah, that's pretty good. Maybe a little bit bigger. Get those cheeks in there. So you can color as you go, do one at a time. You can do like I just did where we are kind of drawing it real light. This whole page will be his head, whereas these other ones, you're just going to see part of their head. They'll get a little smaller and a little smaller as we go. But this page is going to be the whole thing I guess it depends on the animal, but you're going to take up quite a bit. And for me, it is going to be because he's got the shorter hairs here, and then those lines as well. And remember, when we were doing portraits of our presidents, you know, we want to draw our lines going in the direction that the hair is growing. So his hair is growing down this way, and then it curves, and the length that it is. Some of these are small, these are tiny, these are super tiny. So we want to make sure that when we color, we show some of those pieces. And you definitely want to make sure you get the eyes in there, because that's going to help tell the story of who eats who, I guess, huh? So I got his eyes in there, and then a lot of this fur is going to continue throughout the rest. And once I get those fangs in there, that'll be nice. All right, so I've got them drawn in, and I have finished coloring my grass. So I'm going to make sure I get that glued in. Again, you can wait to glue things in. Probably not a bad idea while you get some coloring in. But I'm going to work on my coloring, and then we're going to go from there. All right? All right, I'm going to show you a little bit of the coloring of the rabbit, and then I'm going to let you guys work on yours. All right? So I've got some brown color pencil. We definitely want to keep this color pencil or crayon, not marker, all right? So I've got some black, I got some brown, I got a little bit of red, I got some white, all right? And I might even get a little bit of orange in there, depending on if I might use that for a little bit of a tan color. So this mouse isn't very big, so I always want to start with the lighter colors or pushing lightly. And my pencils are kind of dark, so I'm going to kind of lightly fade those out so that they're not as dark. So I'm just lightly erasing over the top of them. Be careful that you don't rip, because now we have an opening in our paper, and we do not want that to rip. All right. So I want to observe my picture, whether that's on a computer or if I printed one out. Again, we want to draw our lines in the direction that they are going. So these are going upward, and then they start to bend that way, and then they start to come down, all right? And we also want to go the length. So he doesn't have a whole lot of long hairs. And I know I brought my white in here. I'm not necessarily going to color with white. I'm going to use it to help blend some of my colors out. So I'm kind of starting with my lighter colors, and he's got some pink inside of his ears. And so I'm just going to lightly go in with a little bit of red, since I don't have a pink colored pencil. This is kind of a smooth area. And we definitely want to try to show the texture of the animal. This is going to get you some major points with Miss Hayes. All right. And so I'm kind of lightly going in, and we're going to do something called layering. All right. And I'm just kind of putting this in, and then I'm going to take a little bit of the white, and I'm going to go over the top of it. Again, I'm not pushing very hard, but I'm trying to blend these two together, get a little bit of a pinkish color in there. And I'm going to have some other colors, but if we go too dark right away, it's not going to blend very well, and you're going to be stuck with what you get because you push too hard in the beginning. All right. Also, going light, it allows you to be able to go in with just a regular pencil eraser and kind of start to, you can erase a few lines, but if it's too dark of the colored pencil, then it's not going to work out too well. So the hairs on his ears are small, and they're kind of going upward here. So, and they're brown. So I'm going to kind of work my way around. Try not to go too dark in the beginning, but I've got my black here too, so I'm going to put in some fine lines with the black. Again, I'm not pushing very hard. Keep my brown nearby. go in with the brown. So this black and this brown are going to mix, make a nice little dark brown for me. And hopefully define a little bit of the outer edge of his ear. And he's got some of that going on around here, so I'm going to work on trying to show some of this darker brown. He's got a real interesting face, so this is where I'm going to try to shade a little bit. So we don't want that white of the paper to come through unless you're mixing with some white here. So he's got some light brown and some dark brown interacting on his face. And so I'm just shading in with a light brown. Might even go in with a little bit of white. That's going to make it a little bit more of a tan. I don't think I'm going to use that orange there. I just want to stay with what I got. Now if you've got other colored pencils with some different colors, that's great. But sometimes you're limited on what you've got. And so I didn't really start this way on that one, but putting down a base coat of color is usually a good idea. Nice light one. Makes going over with your fine details a little easier. And they mix a little bit better. All right. So I'm going to work on layering with my colored pencil, making sure that I am drawing in the proper direction and the proper length. If it's fur, if it's feathers, if it's hair, you still want to look at it. You still want to see which direction is it going. How long is it? Am I going the right way? Take your time. Put down a nice base coat of whatever you think the lightest color should be. Kind of like I did there. I did a little bit of red, and then I'm going to work. So I'm going to work on this, and then we'll be back. Okay, 5th grade. We are going to work on a project called the food chain, and it is for Miss Hayes' class. So we're going to do the art part with me. You'll probably get a little time in her class, or for you remote guys, you'll get time scheduled to work on your food chain project. All right. So I'm going to go over a little bit about what we're going to do. We're going to start with some sketches. Some of you have already done those. That's great. I'm just going to give you a couple tips from there. I'm going to walk you through how to make the cuts on your paper, because we're going to have some openings on the piece of paper. I'm going to go through that, and then I'm going to show you how to pencil stuff in, and then how to finish them up. It is going to take a couple of class times for us to do that. So you guys at home, we're going to be working on this for a couple weeks. So keep that in mind. You don't want to finish in one day. If you do that, you probably haven't put the time to do it. We're probably not going to know what they are. So let's get started, and so you can see what's ahead. All right.